Hey everyone, Brendan Sander here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of What's on My CD Wall. This one here being a metal edition. I already did the first one here. Now I'm going to do the second row here. So this is where I'm actually going through all my CDs individually, row by row, off of these shelves to give you guys a real insight into what it is that's inside my collection. I usually only do sort of overviews where I touch on things and very broad, talking more about the bands I own and catalogs, but not the actual albums. So I'll give you guys a little bit more insight into that, and maybe you'll find some real hidden gems yourself that you want to go hunt and look up, and find out about. But we're going to get into this here in just a bit, but before we start, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you turn on notifications, you'll never miss an episode just like this, where we're actually going through all my CDs on the wall here. Metal edition, this second row here. So pick it up in the letter B, running through some D's, and then it'll move on down and continue and so forth. But let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's see what's on my CD wall. All right, so I've actually got some stuff on top. I've talked about this before, where sometimes the stuff that's here is newer stuff, or it's just overflow, or I pulled it out from a box and I want to listen to it, so I sat it here and it'll later get filed away. But I'm going to start with this stuff that's here. I've got a couple things. I'm going to pull these down real quick, and then I'll show you what they are. I'm going to leave that one there because it's not quite that letter yet. First up, Rex Brown, Smoke This. So bassist for Pantera, solo album, first and only. He has done some stuff. Kill Devil Hill, I think, was his project before. So he has done some stuff outside of Pantera, but this here is like a really great hard rock record. It's not full on metal. He plays lead guitar on it. Just really, really great stuff. It's got him on the back with the bass, so I guess he does bass as well, but he definitely plays guitar, sings. It's great stuff. I highly, highly recommend it, but very different than Pantera. All right, then we've got Blackthorn Afterlife, which is a really cool project, supergroup at the time. It's got Graham Bonnet on vocals, and let me open it up and see. We got Bob Kulick on guitar, who's certainly, known for working with Kiss, but had a lot of other projects and stuff that he did. Jimmy Waldo is on keyboards here, coming from Alcatraz and New England, and Frankie Bannerly on drums from Quiet Riot, and Chuck Wright on bass, also Quiet Riot. So quite the lineup. This was, I think, like 1993, just under the radar, didn't get any attention, unfortunately, and it's very, very good. If you've never checked this out, oh my goodness, I highly recommend it. And they had a second album that didn't get released at the time, but after Bob Kulick passed away, these tapes got released. Don't Kill the Thrill, and they did it as a 2 CD set. So you get the original album in here, plus you get a whole bunch of additional stuff, live recordings and things like that in here, making it really worthwhile. And I think we just have Bob Kulick, Jimmy Waldo, and Graham Bonnet in this lineup. I think the other two guys dropped off at that point. Next up is a group called Corleone, which is Lee Leone of Goddard doing his own thing. And the front man for this is Ronnie Romero. And so they run through old school songs of Lee Leone's from his band Goddard, and just sort of revisiting them. And 2 albums were done with the same lineup. So Ronnie Romero on both volumes 1, volume 2. There is now a volume 3 or a third one that is out, but Ronnie Romero is not part of those. All right, I'm going to come back to that one later. I guess I actually should have waited on the letter C there, because we're going to jump back into the B's. And we're starting off with Biohazard. Great. I think they may have even had something out in the late 80s, but definitely early 90s, 1992. This was their second studio album. And Evan Seinfeld, and I forget the rest of their names, but good stuff. Good, early 90s metal. I got lucky enough to meet them. So Evan on the front there and named on the back. So got that. Then this album was kind of their breakthrough album, which was State of the World Address. They had, done a single with Onyx, and they had paired up. And They sort of were one of the originators mixing rap and metal together, along with some few other bands in the very early 90s. And that brought them to the forefront. So this one here was kind of their breakthrough album, but this was the big release. It was on Warner Brothers, and they got an opportunity to kind of really shine and show what they could do. But I also like these orange cases and stuff. We don't often get colored jewel cases anymore. Mataleo album from Biohazard, still on Warner Brothers, but by this point here, no one cared much, and unfortunately, it kind of just ran by the radar. Uncivilization, which was on Sanctuary, so they moved to a new label there. And then New World Disorder, even better name. This was on Mercury, so they, sprung back there. It's one of those bands that kind of had all the chances in the world, but just nothing really ever lined up for them to break through really big. Reborn in Defiance. I think this one here, 2012, is actually a reunion album, but is without all of the original guys, which they've now gotten back together. So we're supposed to be getting some new material from them. Black Label Society. This is the original album cover that whatever the whiskey label is that they took this from, said you can't use that as the picture, and they had to change the album cover. But I still got a copy of that because I bought it when it came out. And then another one from them, Mafia. This middle period of theirs, I didn't really get much into. This one's an interesting one. Hangover Music Volume 4, which is all acoustic stuff. So Black Label Society has had an interesting career, much like Zakk Wylde, where Zakk has his solo stuff, Book of Shadows that he does, but he also had Black Label Society and Ozzy, the metal stuff. But Black Label Society, same thing, does the acoustic-sided stuff too. So I've always really liked bands that do that. Alice in Chains was a band that did that. Greatest hits of theirs, that was from 98 to 04. And then this one here, which is Shot to Hell. And we've got this one here. This is Unblackened, which collection of stuff. So another sort of greatest hits collection of theirs. This one here, Catacombs, what's called Catacombs of the Black Vatican. And what else we got? This one here was an album I really liked, which is Order of the Black by Black Label Society. That one was a great one where I really started to get back into the band. The song remains not the same. I've got a lot of albums, didn't really realize how many. Grimmest Hits, which is not a greatest hits, it's an actual album of theirs. And then this one here, same thing. This one was one that I just thought was really great, called The Doom Crew Incorporated. Phenomenal, great album, Set You Free. The opening track, so good. Check that out. All right, then we move on. Biff Byford having a solo album, School of Hard Knocks. First solo album of his, although he has done a couple of things under a different name with his son. All right, and Circle to Circle. So now we're getting into the C's here. Burden of Truth is this album. I've got other stuff by these artists. I've got more stuff by Black Label. Not sure exactly where it's at because I'm realizing I'm missing a couple in there. And I've got the first two albums by Circle to Circle. I think that's with my collection of Sabotage related stuff. Reign of Darkness. So this is other stuff that I've got from the band. All right, we've got Delusions of Grandeur and Consequence of Power. It's kind of hard doing this backwards like this, pulling them off this way. So the way I'm used to doing this. Seasons Will Fall. And this was a cool one here, Live at Whack. And it's called Official Bootleg because the quality isn't that great on it. Recorded in 2012, where they actually perform not the entirety, but very close to Wake of Magellan, that album from Sabotage, done by Circle to Circle. And I really would have liked it had they done the whole album. And I don't know why they didn't, probably time constraints, but it was still cool nonetheless. Cavalera Conspiracy, Inflicted. So two members of Sepultura, Max and Igor Cavalera brothers, joining together. That was a promotional only copy, which is why it has different artwork. And then we've got Blunt Force Trauma, and it's a two disc. Does have 3 bonus tracks on it, and then the DVD is a live show from 2008. This was a good album. I liked this one a lot here, which is called Pandemonium from Cavalera Conspiracy. Picked that one up on a whim. I don't have all of the Cavalera Conspiracy stuff. They're another one of those bands that I was into early on when it first happened, kind of like Soulfly, and then I fell away from them, and then I've come back to them in recent years. And, this is Psychosis from them, and I think this is their latest album. But I'm now back into Sepultura and Max Cavalera and stuff like that. So been picking up those, and when I'm in the mood for this stuff, I will pick up and fill in the voids that are in my catalog. I just recently picked up the Sepultura album Beneath the Remains, which I didn't even realize I didn't have that one. It was the last Sepultura album I think that I was missing, at least of the original era stuff. Okay, Chastain. This is Greg T. Chastain and his project with Leather on vocals. Leather Lewis, I can't remember what her last name is, but female lead vocalist. Not a very common thing in the metal world. 2 albums. These were reissues from Shrapnel. Ken Mary is on drums. So, cool early lineups of some of these metal bands that have other guys that went on to do other famous things. Culprit. This album here, Guilty as Charged, I think was from 1983. This is a reissue of it, but I love good old school classic metal wherever I can find it. Oh, Chastain album Out of Sequence there. For Those Who Dare, later era, this is a 1990 release. Okay, this is one that I never liked back in the day, and then somewhere along the way, it just was always in the back of my mind, and I gave it a try, and then I decided to buy the album, and I fell in love with this. Cycle Sluts from Hell. And unfortunately, that is a dude's butt on there. That is not a girl's butt on there. And there's a bunch of dudes, naked dudes, laying around them, and I get it. They're girls the same way that guys would have had a bunch of naked girls laying around them. So they were really sort of playing it up. But Sony Music put out their one and only album, and it was a little bit of a parody and farce sort of a thing because the names that they took and the stuff that they sang about, but man, the music is so good on it. So their song, the big kind of breakthrough song, was I Wish You Were a Beer. And that song in and of itself, I really could care less about, but the rest of the stuff on here is good. If you've never checked them out and you're interested in something a little different from the early 90s from an all-female metal band, Cycle Sluts from Hell. Right, Corrosion of Conformity, Blind. Moving into Deliverance, this is when, they started to break through. They were a little more hard rock than metal at that time. Also their album Wise Blood doing that as well. So Clean My Wounds, and I don't remember what was the song. Maybe it was the song Wise Blood off of there, but Clean My Wounds and Albatross were the 2 big ones all over radio at the time off of that album, and this album followed it up. And then we've got In the Arms of God. And I think this one here is a later day era reunion after not doing anything for some time. Guess it's just a self-titled release. We've got that. All right, The Cursed. This one's a cool one here. Room Full of Sinners, which features Bobby Blitz Ellisworth in the lineup there. So a cool side project that he did from Overkill. All right, and some other old school thrash. Cyclone Temple, I Hate, Therefore I Am. And they were known for, I think the black guy is the front man, but I'm not sure. But, that was just one of those things. There weren't a lot of black musicians, vocalists, guitar players, whatever, in metal. And so whenever a band came along like that, it was kind of a little bit gimmicky, but also just the thing to take note of. So they were one of those bands. Building Errors in the Machine, Cyclone Temple, later era release of theirs. And here's another one, My Friend Lonely. Probably have them out of sequence at this point. I got to get them back in sequence. I never really worried too much about the alphabetical aspect as long as all the C's, all the B's, all the D's, etc. You know, those are all together. I do like to keep my albums in chronological order, but, you know, occasionally they get out of sequence, and then I do things like this, and I put them back in sequence. Charred Wall of the Dam. Man, a lot of great bands and stuff I'm coming across today. If you're a metal fan, man, there's some real great gems in this here. This group here, I forget who the drummer is, but he comes from somewhere, and that's where, you know, the guy that put this all together. But the vocalist for this is Tim Owens of Judas Priest in there. And I just love everything he sings on. These are put out by Metal Blade Records, so really good quality. They did 3 albums together. Cold Winds on Timeless Days. Cold Winds on Timeless Days. 2nd album and a 3rd album. And then unfortunately I haven't done anything. Creatures Watching Over the Dead. Really good stuff. Not as heavy as these look. They're not death metal, but you know, you'd look at these album covers and the way that the band name is written and think we're getting into some death metal, but it's got Tim Owens singing on it the way he does in Priest. So if you like Priest, you're gonna like it. Cauldron, man, one of the really great new wave of thrash metal bands that's out there, a new wave of traditional metal, maybe. I think they're more traditional metal than thrash. 2007, 4-song EP, and then they get into actual releases here. Chained to the Night, which is really good. You can see those guys are young, but man, they're killers. A lot like new wave of British heavy metal style stuff. This is Burning Fortune, and then we've got Tomorrow's Lost by Cauldron, and 2 more, In Ruin, which was a really good album, but my favorite album out of all of these is actually this one, New Gods, and it's their latest album. I think they put a covers album out during the pandemic, but it was digital only. This is 2018, and I've not seen a new studio album from the band, so I'm kind of worried that they might be over, but Cauldron, if you've never checked them out, check out this. Cross between like traditional metal, new wave of British heavy metal, and a little bit of stoner rock sound to them. All right, Deeds. This is one I just recently pulled out, Blown. They were known as Dirty Deeds for the first 2 albums, and Steve Harris produced them, might have even signed them to his label or something, but this, when they shorten their name to Deeds, this is a band that features Richie Faulkner on guitar, one of the early projects that he did. So if you want to know where he was before joining up with Judas Priest and stuff like that, this is one of those projects, and it's a really great album. Okay, Diamond Head, The Coffin Train. So I know this is, it's not all my stuff. So I've got my Diamond Head in a new wave of British heavy metal box. I got a couple boxes that just have solely that stuff together, and these should probably move over to it. But these 2 are newer releases, so they've just gone on the wall right now. Lightning to the Nations 2020, so a re-recording with the current lineup. The vocalist, Brian Tatler's no longer with the group. Or did I just say the guitar player? I apologize. I'm spacing between the name of the vocalist and the name of the guitar player. And I'm going to open the book and check because I don't want to get it wrong. Brian Tatler is the lead guitar player. So this is with the new lineup and their new vocalist and stuff, but their original vocalist not with them. So kind of cool to hear the new guy singing the stuff. And of course, it just has better production and quality and everything like that. And I'll show you this one now. Damn the Machine, The Last Man. So an unreleased album from Damn the Machine, which has Chris Poland from Megadeth, project he did after leaving Megadeth with his brother. Really good stuff if you're a fan of Chris Poland era Megadeth. Check out Damn the Machine. Check out the first album specifically, but this one here is also worthwhile as well. All right, we're getting down to the tail end here. Dream Child, a supergroup sort of project here put together by the Frontiers label. But our guys in this, we have Craig Goldie on guitars. That's what this project was known for. Rudy Sarzo is on bass. Win Finley on guitar, who is part of the Michael Schenker group. Simon Wright on drums from AC/DC and who knows where else. And Diego Valdez on vocals. Don't know if he was just a new up-and-coming guy or if he came from somewhere too, but that's a great little album. Damage Plan. The Pantera offshoot group, 3 members of Pantera continuing on with new vocalist in the lineup. Unfortunately, that was the band that Dimebag Darrell was shot and killed while performing on stage. So ending that band, and of course, at the time, really preventing Pantera ever from reforming, although we do have a version of Pantera out there now. Death Angel. Cool stuff. I've got a box set of their first 2 albums. I think that is Act 3, the 3rd album. Killing Season, one of the newer albums from the band. Another one here, Relentless Retribution. Of course, now the lead vocalist of Death Angel is singing for Kerry King's band, along with Phil DeMel in there on guitar from Machine Head and Violence. And we move into Down. This is the 2nd album. So I think Nola is the 1st album. This one here, really, really good stuff here. Stone the Crow, a fantastic song, followed up with that. Never really thought they recaptured what the 1st album was, but I did like that. Over the Under, and then we've got, I think these are a couple EPs here that they did. It's interesting. So we've got Down with a crescent-shaped moon, and then we've got Down with a half moon. Maybe they were going to do a 3/4 moon and a full moon and do 4 EPs, but we never got it. I don't know. Either way, there you go. The stack of CDs has reached this high. That is off of the floor, so you can tell how many we just took off. But hopefully you enjoyed that, seeing all the individual releases that I have. That was this row. Next one we'll pick up with D's and run through F's, and we'll just keep going from there. So let me know if you're enjoying this and if I should continue. Otherwise, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye, everyone. All right, so for those of you that are still watching at this point, I'm going to talk during this one when I don't normally do this, but some people have said, why don't I just pick up, 5 or 6 or 7 of these at one time and stick them in? And if I pick them up in the way that I laid them down, which is upside down, they would not go back in order the way that I took them out. So that is actually why I have to do it one by one like this. But in doing this, from the very first time that I've done this, and this is maybe the 7th or 8th time or so I've done one of these types of videos, I did it, and it was an accident the first time that I filmed myself putting them all back. But people liked it so much, I decided I needed to continue it. And then I actually get people thanking me at the end that I'm still putting all my CDs back at the end, that for some reason they like it. I just think it's kind of a funny little thing to do here at the end, so I've continued to do it. But it's also a little bit like a Zen-like thing, putting back your CDs one by one, like this on the shelf, so they all come out, they all go back, just feels kind of good. And so that is why I am still doing this. That is why I'm doing it in the order that I'm doing it. And that is why you are getting to see this little process. And we are almost to the very end here. We're counting down right to the very ending of all this, getting back in and down to where we started with Biohazard and a few more. We will wrap this whole thing up. And there we go.